Hi there. I'm going to share my screen. How did I do that? Like this. No, no. Ew. Oh, sorry, guys. It's happening again. Um, Here we are. Thank you. So here we are. Um, Again, Friday, 14th of July. This is a special day in the Netherlands. And it's the day of love. So I hope you're enjoying love. And while you're enjoying love, I hope you listen to me. And this is my third episode about freedom from food obsession, how to get out of the way of your own impulsive behavior and start to behave consciously. And that's why my first question now is, well, how did you plan your lunch? Did you plan your lunch? Did you think about lunch at all? Um, and all these kinds of things. Did you already start to have a little bit consciousness around food? Because today we're going to talk about triggers. From triggers to conscious action. Van trigger naar een bewuste actie. And isn't skipping lunch, not thinking about lunch, doing all kinds of things instead of lunch, doing things while you're eating, not consciously eating, isn't that all helping to get more triggers? Or isn't it all to help staying impulsive instead of creating conscious action? So that's my first question. And then what to expect for the rest of this episode. Well, of course, I'm going to talk about what triggers are. I'm going to tell you about HALT and how to avoid it. And I'm going to ask you to check your motives. So, going to check your motive and how you can do that. That's what you can expect. And then, before we start to dig into all these triggers and what they are and what they can be and how they look like, and I want you to think of hungry, angry, lonely, or tired. HALT is the acronym. And because maybe your triggers are just physical needs. And that's also why I started this episode with your question about lunch. You know, it's lunchtime right now. So maybe some of your triggers are just that you're hungry, or that you're tired, or that you're stressed, or that you're lonely or angry. And also, sometimes you can get very angry when you're hungry. So, do you recognize something of that? Do you recognize that some of your triggers might be physical? Physical needs for sleep, physical need for rest, physical need for fresh air or sun, physical need for food. And what kind of food? Can you be honest to yourself about what kind of food you need? And last episode, we talked about um, food plan or um, a trigger list for food. So are you are you okay with yourself to get more honest about what your needs are also for food? What do you need? What does your body require? Hmm? Your inner human. What does it really need? Can it be that you're angry because you're hungry? Can it be that you're hungry because you're tired? Can it be that you eat because you're lonely or you need to talk about something? So that's the first thing I want you to figure out or to think about or to explore inside yourself. Are my triggers physical? Because when we talk about triggers, it can be people, it can be places and situations, and it can be emotions. So if you just get the physical out of the way, what stays? What stays? What triggers you most? Like for me, yeah, I had this trigger of anxiety whenever I had to confront somebody or tell something that was important for me. And whenever I needed to do that, I first thought of food. I first would eat. I first would think of, oh, just give me a cookie or just give me something. And now when I tell you this, it also was about my job. I was a teacher, a creative teacher. I taught kids how to dance, sing, and play. But I was always very scared to get into that position of leader, to lead the group, to feel all the tensions, the feelings, the things happening, the emotions of other people as well, and made me so scared. And I had to eat a whole lot of things before I could do that. I thought I had to eat a whole lot of things before I could do that. So my first reaction was on that trigger was food. I need to eat. So when I got conscious about this trigger, I I started I started making space. I started to connect with my feeling, like, hey, okay, I'm scared. Maybe I need something else. Maybe it's not food I need, because then when I eat, I would get mad about myself and I would not be in the right place to teach. So it was a terrible loop for me. So this is a situation, of course, and not really people, but it's a situation. I needed to work and I couldn't work without eating, but I was getting very upset when I eat because it wasn't healthy for me. I felt it. So when I got conscious about that trigger, I started to get space in between the moment that I eat and the moment that I knew that this trigger was there. I observed it. I didn't stop it. I didn't forbid it. I didn't punish myself or whatever. I just observed. I observed, hey, this happens before I eat. Hey, I'm scared. I feel a lot of fear, and that's a trigger. Fear is a trigger. So it wasn't that I stopped doing things I feared, but I prepared things that I feared. I prepared them before I did them. So I got observed the feeling before it happened to me. So first it's sort of overcome, it happened to me. I thought it happened to me. Well, it didn't happen to me, of course, but I thought it happened to me. And then it didn't happen to me because I got conscious about the trigger. The trigger was fear. So that's why you also have to get honest with yourself. What is this trigger really about? What is this situation really about? Exactly. It was an emotion. And then when I replaced it out of that situation to other things, there were people I was scared of, places I was scared of, things I was scared of. So that emotion fear was a big trigger for me. Maybe for you it's another emotion, but for me, emotion fear was a big trigger. So, and you see that if you observe your trigger in a different way, like it was a situation before, but then I noticed it was not really the situation, but it was the emotion. It wasn't the people, it was the emotion I felt before I had to do it. And then when I knew it was that emotion, I could prepare things for myself, actions that I could do when I felt fear. So I started this little prayer, and I will show you at the next slide. But first, of course, I came into conscious action. I did literally what it says. I observed my behavior without judgment. So ik heb mijn gedrag geobserveerd zonder het te veroordelen. En toen kwam ik erachter dat het niet de situatie was waar ik bang voor was, maar de emotie angst, die ervoor zorgde dat ik wou gaan eten. Die ervoor zorgde dat ik impulsief wou gaan eten, zonder whatever. I add that trigger of fear, feeling fear, being scared, to my bottom line. Like whenever I feel scared, whenever I feel fear, I will sit and breathe before I do anything. I will sit and do this little prayer. I will show you. And it's not what you think. It's totally not what you think. But I have to say prayer because there's something in it that is beyond myself. So I did this 3-step prayer. I said it inside myself, or sometimes I said it out loud. It's step 1. I am powerless over this emotion for me. I'm powerless over this emotion, fear. I'm powerless over this fear. I need a power greater than myself to stop behaving out of fear, to stop to behave impulsively. 3, please, higher power, take this fear away from me. And I say higher power, and it doesn't mean God or whatever. A lot of people think about God as you hear the term higher power, but it can be anything. It can be nature, can be people, can be this conscious intelligence that is surrounding us. It can be your higher self if you want to, but it has to be something outside of yourself, because if you do it inside yourself, okay, fine, but then ego gets a very big voice. Ego is in your way all the time, but if you take a higher power, ego gets a little bit smaller, and it's ego that will sabotage you, which I said in a former episode. Ego will get in the way. Ego will say, no, you cannot do it. Ego will say, no, this is not fair. No, this is not a trigger. No, whatever. But this little 3-step prayer is a very simple way to get ego out of your head and out of the way, and to give you freedom to get even more space between the trigger and your behavior, between the trigger and your action. And that's what we all want. We want more space between triggers and action, between triggers and behavior, so that you can get conscious action and you stop behaving impulsively and you stop behaving from an obsession. So in Dutch, it's een klein gebedje, een klein schietgebedje je kan doen om je hoofd vrij te maken van je obsessie of van een trigger. En het stap 1, toegeven dat je machteloos bent over deze situatie, deze persoon, deze emotie. Stap 2, en je zegt het dan hardop, ik ben machteloos over deze angst. Stap 2, ik heb een grotere macht nodig om te gaan met deze angst. En stap 3, ik geef deze angst aan mijn hogere macht. En voor mij werkte dat als magic. For me, it worked like magic. I had a lot of obsessions. I had a lot of triggers. I'm remembering being on my bike, going to yoga, whatever, or going to teach or whatever. And I was full of these obsessions, like all these egoistic thoughts and things, and that I wasn't scared of, or that I wanted to do but I couldn't do, or all kinds of negative things. And I just did this. This is 1, 2, 3-step prayer, and it worked for me magically. My mind became clear for a split second, and that was enough to get space to get into contact with reality, because I was sucked out of reality and in my mind all the time. I lived in my own isolated world that was only existing for me and was isolating myself more and more and more. So this prayer helped me to get a connection with reality again, with the now. It made my space and my time in the now more and more and more, instead of that it was all the time in my head. So dit kleine gebedje zorgde ervoor dat ik in het nu kon zijn en dat ik contact kon maken met het hier en nu, van waar ben ik eigenlijk? In plaats van dat ik in mijn hoofd zat en alleen maar bezig was met de wereld die bestond in mijn hoofd, die er uiteindelijk eigenlijk helemaal niet was. So that about the 3-step prayer, the small 3-step prayer that will get you into the now, into the here, out of your head, out of your fear, out of your obsession, out of the road that you've walked so many times and that brought you to the food or to the toilet for me, because I was throwing up, of course, all the time, which I don't do already anymore for like 10 years. So it works. It does work if you work it. So another thing I figured out was okay, obsession triggers getting momentum to get connection, to get contact with the now. And then it became clear to me, and also while I was making my bottom line, I had to check my motives. I had to check, why am I actually doing this? Why am I doing this teaching job? Do I like it? Or am I trying to please somebody? My mother or my father? Do I think that I have to do it to earn money? Or am I honest? Am I really honest to myself? Is this motive good for me? Am I doing the things that are healthy for me? And yeah, that's a difficult one because you have to really get honest with yourself. You know, why do you do it? Why do you want to help someone? Why do you want to get to dinner with a friend? Why do you do what you do? Huh? It can be very confronting because you have to be very honest with yourself. And I had this also because I had food obsession, but I also had this love obsession. And it was so one of my bottom lines was to stop getting attention from guys with brown eyes. Really, really, really weird. But it was something when I was feeling scared. I had these two options. I had to go to the food or I could go to a man. And not really for only for attention. It was just sort of help me out of this pattern that I'm in and I don't want to get into it and I don't know how to get out of it. So when I stopped doing the food, something else, some other coping mechanism came out of the closet and I had to get really honest and conscious and I was like, oh, this is this is not this is not a coping mechanism that is helping me. So getting honest about your motives will get the layer of your coping mechanisms that are not working. So it can be a little bit confronting, but it can be very, very helping because then you check your motive and you see, this is not really a good motive. I'm pleasing. I'm pleasing my mother. I'm pleasing my father. I'm pleasing this friend. I'm trying to get even with somebody. I try to get whatever. I try to get something instead of I want to give something. That's a very good um, a flag, a red flag for yourself. Like, ooh, I try to get something. Then you can go and check your motive, and put that motive on your bottom line. Like, I will not do this and this and this instead of that, because we want conscious actions that are helping us and not conscious actions that are a bypass into not feeling, into not really helping ourselves. So, why do I do what I do? Am I pleasing? Am I dishonest? Am I whatever? And then write it on your bottom list. Try to get really conscious about it. Why am I doing this? What am I afraid of? What do I not want to feel? Why can I not be honest to myself? Yeah, good luck with that one. So keep it simple. It's very difficult to get dishonest about your own behavior. And keep it simple in a way like observe and don't judge. It's already difficult enough to change your behavior into conscious actions. So observe, don't judge, and make small steps. So, about this trigger list we were making, and I explained a little bit about triggers, and I also explained a little bit about the physical and the emotional part of it. The physical part being hungry or lonely or tired, and the emotional part being afraid or being insecure or being self-conscious. So find out, what is it about. Is it physical or emotional? You have to be very honest with yourself. And I say keep it simple because just start with one or two or three triggers because that's hard enough, and make that list. And it's a living document, we would say in the Netherlands. You can change it. You can copy paste. You can you can change it. You're the owner of the document. You're the owner of the trigger list. You're the only one who knows what's honest. So als het gaat over trigger list, I don't know the Dutch word. dan moet je heel erg eerlijk zijn over dit. En moet je heel erg eerlijk zijn over de lijst. En moet je ook begrijpen dat jij bepaalt wat er op die lijst staat. En je mag het heel simpel houden door 2 of 3 of 4 dingen op je lijst te zetten. Niet meer. En dat je die mag aanpassen en overschrijven en uitgummen. Het gaat over jouw stap naar meer bewustzijn. En het absoluut niet veroordelen. So this was all about triggers. I hope it helps you a little bit. And if you want more information, if you need help, please find me, reach out to me, my website, subscribe, ask questions, or try to go to a 12-step program. I see you. The next stream will be 21st of February, and we will deep dive into conscious action. Thank you very much.